Assalamualaikum and hi, I bid to Dr. AZIKIN and my fellow classmates. I hope you guys are doing well at home. I am AINA SHAHIRAH binti ANUAR. My metric number is 046811 and I will be your first presenter for our group today. Our group will be presenting about classroom observation and footnotes. So let's get started with classroom observation. So, classroom observation is a systematic and planned monitoring that aims to gain data. It means that the researcher would observe or monitor what is going on in the class to collect the data they wanted according to their research topic. So, for example, if you want to analyze the code mixing between Malay language and English during English lesson, then you must observe and make sure to collect the data that is relevant in your research, which in this case your data would be code mixing. So according to Richards 2016, classroom observation is the analysis of transcripts of interaction recorded during the lessons. The transcripts here means that the valuable data that you have recorded during the observation. So you must be wondering how does classroom observation works? So first of all, the researcher will sit in the classroom and observe the interactions and what is going on in the classroom. During the observation, the researcher will record the students and the teacher's interaction. If you want to analyze code mixing, then that will be your main data collection. It could be video recording, it could be audio recording, or the researcher can also take notes during the sessions. So all of this recorded data is what you are going to analyze further in your research. Okay, next we will look at the purpose of classroom observation. According to Amayao, Ofori, Ajepong, and Asem 2018, excuse my pronunciation, the purpose of classroom observation is to gather data and use the appropriate feedback in improving lessons. So it means that the data that you have collected during classroom observation will help in giving feedbacks to improve the lessons. Like the example that I gave you just now, the use of code mixing in English lesson. So after you collect your data during the observation, you must give an appropriate feedback in order to improve the lesson. So for example, you can give suggestion to minimize the use of code mixing in English lesson maybe, or you could suggest perfect strategies to use in English lesson. So next, according to Hopkins 2017, classroom observation helps to produce valid and authentic data because it focuses on the collection of data collected directly by looking at real situations. So Hopkins here stated that classroom observation will give a valid and authentic data to the researcher since they observe what is really happening in the classroom because it is based on real situations. So in this case, classroom observation might give the researcher more reliable data than other methods, according to Hopkins. So that's all for my part. My friend will be continuing the presentation next. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, I'm YAHYA 046630, and I will proceed with the types of classroom observation. Basically, there are various types of classroom observation, but in this presentation, I will focus on 4 common types of classroom observation. The first one is participant observer. Participant observer refers to an observer that fully participate in the classroom activity. In this context, they are well adapted or immerse themselves into the setting. For example, they can act like a student and learning together with other participants in the classroom, or they can play a role as a second teacher in assisting students during the lesson. This helps students to be unaware that they are being observed. It is important for the observer to collect the data without being noticed by the participant, as they can collect, as the student can act more naturally in the setting, and this can lead to more weight data produced. Second one is non-participant observer. It occurs when the observer observes the student without actively participating in the classroom activity. In this context, the observer just only play the vital role of the observer, which means that they only observe in order to collect the data. Okay. However, this might cause the student to notice the observer, because the observer might likely be different from the rest of them. So this will eventually affect the data collection, as the student will unnaturally behave as the result of being observed. For example, in observing student during English proficiency class or during reading lessons, the student will feel insecure to behave like natural, as they are aware that they are being observed. The third one is structured observation. Structured observation refers to an observation that has some structure or basically follows a certain guideline. In other words, the researcher might know exactly beforehand what to be observed. In this case, it is also known as a focused observation, because it enables the observer to observe only on one specific aspect of interest. This might help researcher a lot in collecting the data, because it is easier to be conducted. For example, in observing student proficiency in reading, the observer only need to focus on students' reading skills in order to collect the data. The last one is unstructured observation. Different from structured observation, unstructured observation are also known as open observation, because it enables a rich variety of information to be obtained. There is no restriction to only observe on one specific interest, but also the researcher can monitor all aspects of interest that are related to a problem. However, the observer needs to have considerable skills and experiences in conducting this kind of classroom observation, as they need to cope with the variation and differences among participants in a classroom setting. For example, in observing student proficiency in English classroom, they need to have skills in promoting the student leadership skills, and or evaluating skills like reading, writing, and so on. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, my name is FATIHAH binti SAUPI 047844. As from my part, I'm gonna explain about field notes. What is field notes? So field notes are the notes made by the researcher in the course of qualitative fieldwork, often observations of participant, location, or events. So field notes are referred to qualitative notes that are recorded usually by the scientists or the researchers in the course of field research during or after their observation of a specific phenomenon that they are studying. So these notes are intended to be read as evidence that will give meaning and aids in the understanding of the phenomenon. Moving on to the types of field notes. So there are two types of field notes. Okay, the first type of field notes is a descriptive field note. So descriptive field notes constitute the longest part of most inquiry journals. So these notes are detailed and have accurate descriptions of what the inquirer sees, hears, and also experiences. These notes require detailed, concrete, and vividly specific words should be used instead of using abstract, superficial, summary, or evaluative language in the notes. Quotations are included also when it is possible. So, in descriptive field notes, it may be helpful to think of your making of this record as the creation of a library about your experiences as a teacher, administrator, or parent, or whatever roles that you may play. So you want the richest library holdings possible to fill your record, so you have access to these details when you want to interpret your experience, share it with others, or otherwise learn from your ongoing inquiry. Okay, the second type of field notes is a reflective field note. So reflective field notes build on the descriptive field notes in order to reflect your personal account of what you are learning. These notes go beyond the descriptions presented because reflective field notes has to include your speculations, your feelings, your problems, your ideas, your hunches, your impressions, your prejudice, your analysis, your plans for future inquiry, your clarifications, your synthesis, your connections, and your ideas about and your other ideas about what you are learning in the inquiry. So recording your reflections may be therapeutic for you and should also help you clarify what you are thinking and experiencing during the inquiry experience. So this written record of your reflections also provide a contextual framework for interpreting your descriptive field notes because understanding you as the learner through your reflective notes will help the readers, including yourself, better understand the descriptions, analysis, and the conclusions of a study. Next, all field notes must necessarily reflect the influence of the inquirer who created them. So reflective notes will provide a way to take into the account that influence by clarifying who you are, how you think, where your ideas came from, and etc. So reflective notes may be set apart from the descriptive notes in your record through the use of notations such as OC, meaning observer comment, through the creation of separate sections of your field notes for more extensive analysis such as memos, essay, or draft reports, or they may be even kept in a separate field diary.
Okay, the next one is ethical consideration. Okay, before that, my name is Aida Nurdini binti OTHMAN 047244. So basically, in ethical consideration, we will discuss about what we need to consider when we are going for classroom observation and also when we are writing field notes. Okay, The first one is the first one is we are going to focus on the classroom observation first. Okay, the first one is we need to seek permission and obtain consent from the school, teacher, and parents of the participant if the participant is below 18 years old, which is for primary school and also secondary school. So, how we are going to seek permission from them? Good question. So, we can ask help from our faculty to provide us with permission letter, and also we can take our own initiative to write a formal letter and explain a little bit about our research and submit to them a few weeks earlier before we are going to classroom observation. The next one is the teacher should be informed appropriately about the details of the observation. So before we are going to classroom observation, in order to gain their willing participation, we need to explain the details of the observation, such as what is the purpose of our study, what our study is about, and also whether we are going to participate or not, and if we are going to participate, what is the degree of participation? Is it the whole lesson or what? The next one is we need to aware of being a guest in the school, meaning that we need to follow their proper ethic, and also we need to observe the school cultures such as their dress code, whether we need to wear formal attire or not, and also we need to respect their schedules. And the next one is minimize your presence impact on that place, meaning that some people might think us as outsider. So this means that we can be the intruder in their setting, and this intrusion could affect their social rapport between the teacher and the participants. It also could affect the students' behavior. So it is the best if we can reduce the disruption. But if we are going to participate in the lesson, discuss first with the teacher on how we are going to participate. Okay. Okay, the next one is what you need to consider when you are writing field notes. So the first one is it is important for you as researcher to protect your participants' confidentiality and also privacy. You need to protect your participants' data at all costs. This is very important ethics that you need to consider in your research. So avoid using their real names and try to use pseudonym. Pseudonym is like a fake name that usually used by the writer. So you can use pseudonym instead of real name. And also try to avoid exposing their identity. The next one is avoid using bias statement. So in this process of writing field notes, just focus on the process of your research. Avoid being biased to any party, and you need to be as neutral as possible in your writing. Okay, the next one is documents related should be kept for observed events only, meaning that you shouldn't use the data that you collect or the document related with your project to other assignment. You shouldn't use the data for another assignment. Just use the data collected for the events or for the project only. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you.
I'm ADLINA, Band 6A with metric number 047116. So today I'll be talking about the advantages and also disadvantages of classroom observation and field notes. The advantages, the first one is additional information. The observer can obtain additional information because the observer can observe the interaction between the teachers and the students to determine whether the teacher has established a good rapport with the students or not? Did the teacher treat the students with respect, or can they address the question effectively to the students? These are all additional information that the teacher can observe from the observation. Next, the second one is real life experience. It is because it is a face-to-face process. So the researcher can observe whether the teacher used effective teaching method or not, or did they has control over the class or not, or did they able to address all the students' needs or not. So it is a good process because they face it face to face, real life experience for them. Next is the disadvantages. The first one is bias. At every workplace, there will always be some degree of bias. The school with no exceptions in this part. Okay, whether the evaluation are made by the maybe teachers, peers, or administrators, bias can potentially affect the result. The research no the observer might be unconsciously biased too, because it may be because of the teacher's personality or appearance, age, gender, or ethnicity itself. Next is unreliable. Why I say unreliable is that because having face-to-face evaluation can give accurate picture of the teacher's effectiveness in the classroom, but many teachers and many teachers and students react differently when they know that others are observing them in the classroom. So the result might be a bit distorted because it is different from what next is fillment. Advantages. The first one is very simple to keep. It is because it is taken down by the researcher itself, not the outsider needed in the process. So, but the researcher need to have um, backup plan because this process required equipment like camera, recorder, microphones, and many more. Next is provide ongoing record. Not like classroom observation, field notes will provide an ongoing record because the researcher have the record of what really happened in the classroom. They can rewind it, which part that they want, and they can also highlight on which part that they want to express or highlight it on. Lastly, the disadvantages of field notes. The first one is highly subjective because every researcher has their own personal belief and disciplines toward any topic. It could produce physical distance because of maybe the recording is in another place and the observer is in another place, so it could produce physical distance between what really happened and the observer itself. And also produce emotional distance because the researcher or the observer only listen to the recording or look at the recording. They are not really in the situation to really feel the emotion during the moment. And lastly is difficult to record. Why I say difficult to record, it is because of the speed of speech and speed of the observer trying to write what will happen or what will have been said in the recording is different tempo because speech is faster than writing tempo, so that will be a little problem for the observer because they really need to rely on their memory to write down what have been said in the recording itself. I think that's all from my part. I hope that you understand. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NURUL SYAZWANI binti Muhammad SUKRI. My matric number is 046809. Okay, so for my part, I will provide an example of a research that use classroom observation and field notes to gain the data of the research. Okay, so The title of the research is The Influence of Using Audiovisual Aids in Teaching English Vocabulary. The research was conducted by Alia Ben Sola back in 2012. So, as the title suggests, the research aim was to examine the effectiveness of audiovisual aids in teaching new vocabulary to the student. Okay, as stated in the research, the researcher believed that AVA or teaching aids can help students to learn and memorize new words taught by the teacher. So Alia, she believed that if the teacher integrates AVA in their teaching session, the student will catch up easily and memorize the new words. Alright, so AVA is the combination of both senses, auditory and visual. And this research involved third-year students and the teachers at Das Muhammad Middle School. Alright, so for the methodology, the researcher used questionnaire for the teacher to describe their opinion of using AVA in their teaching. The researcher also conducted several observation sessions, each with the same class and teacher. During the observation, the researcher used checklists, notes, and video to gather all the data observed during the lesson. As stated in the previous slide, notes are very simple to keep and provide an ongoing records of the observation. Alright, so as I mentioned before, the researcher observed several teaching sessions which helped to obtain the accurate data. The researcher also took notes on several elements including instructional vocabulary session, the classroom interaction, students' vocab assessment, and the integration of AVA in teaching vocab. The researcher also analyzed and discussed all data gained from the questionnaires and classroom observation together with the field notes. Okay, so as the conclusion for this research, the researchers study every details about the participants that involved in the learning session, which are the students and the teacher. This includes the teacher point of view about AVA and the students' reaction during the lesson. The researcher attended several teaching sessions with and without the existence of AVA in order to gain the accurate data for the research. The data and info from every observed session and the field notes were analyzed and used to conclude the researcher's hypothesis about the topic. So I think that's all for my part, and that's it. If you have any question, do drop it down on the comment section below, okay? And that's all from us. Thank you.